Good morning, everyone. Welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. My name is Alpa Sharma, and this is our editorial analysis. I hope I'm clearly audible and visible to everybody. Very good morning, everyone. So, you see a change in the thumbnail that I'm using, and I'll tell you exactly the reason behind the change in the thumbnail. Apart from that, I have a surprise for you today. I brought two reading comprehensions that we're going to be doing today. The reason being, in the last class we had discussed that we've been practicing RCs for we've been practicing reading for quite some time, reading editorials from various sources for quite some time, and it's actually now time to uh, apply all this knowledge that we've gained to practice. And if I know exactly the kind of things that you struggle with, it's going to be easier for me to formulate classes accordingly. So I'm clearly audible and visible. Okay. So ultimately, what am I going to do today? I have brought two articles from both of them are extracts from books, and both of them have been made into RCs. So we're going to be doing that. Both of them aren't considered to be easy ones. One is really short, it's merely a paragraph, and there are some factual questions. But then understanding the passage is a little difficult. There are many difficult words there. And then the next one is a little long, but uh, yeah, because I hardly take Hindu editorials. That's why the change in the thumbnail. Okay. One more thing that I'd like to announce now on, whenever I have classes here, I'll have classes only on Thursdays. So Tuesdays, we will not have any more classes. So every Thursday, I'd see you. I'd like to bring Aeon articles, but not necessarily. I might bring some The Guardian, the New York Times, or any other book extract like I brought today, depending upon what we are trying to do in the class. So that's why the change in the thumbnail, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. I have brought questions on summary, on inference, on vocabulary, and many other. So are you excited to do these? Happy, everyone? Before I show you the first extract that we're going to be doing in the class today, uh, one thing, just a minute. Yeah, okay. So before I show you the first extract, remember why are we doing an RC today in the class? Is because we've been reading for quite some time, and we need to know exactly what are we lacking with, and what areas I would work hard on. Okay, so Dia, you've done these passages with me. You could leave the class. Others, here you go with the first page. This is the only page, and the next page has a question. So read the page, understand it on your own, and send me a done. Dia, you can leave. If you're done reading this, send me a done. If you find it difficult, tell me. It is difficult, yeah. Okay, the first question. I hope you're done reading this. The first question. Sure. Try answering this. Tell me if you'd want to go back to the passage for answering this. It is complex, yes. The whole idea is to tell you exactly how to deal with such extracts. This might come in the exam, right? Let's go back once. Okay. Now what's your answer? Question number 1. Did you get a bit of the passage? What's your answer? Good morning. What's your answer? No one? यार पहले क्वेश्चन में अटक गए ऐसा कैसे होगा? Okay. A C. Okay. A. Okay. Okay. I have only 3-4 people answering. Yes, the correct answer is an A here. So it's going to be Bharat, Prats, Disha, uh, Anamra. You guys got this correct. The correct answer is an A. I'll not discuss it right now. There are 4 questions that follow. Let's answer the 4 questions and then we'll come back and discuss exactly how we should have read this passage. Question number 2. It may be inferred that the doctrine of any given period cannot be fully evaluated unless it's basically a critical reasoning question. Yes, Apurv, you're right. It's A. Question number 2. What's your correct answer? D. D. Yeah, absolutely right. The correct answer is a D. Absolutely D. You guys could get this passage. What are you struggling with? You guys are good at it. It's a D for sure. It is a tricky passage. Question number 3. Here you go. It may be inferred that the appetites of the economy. The last line. It was evidenced. I'll take you back to the passage. It's a factual one. Read this and I'll take you back to the options then. Okay, back to it. Question number 3. Anamra, is this your answer for this question? Okay. Bharat, Disha, Anamra, you guys are right. It is a B. Man's conduct in the Middle Ages and 16th century. And the last question before we discuss the passage. The author's thesis would be insupportable if. So, understand the question. I'll not explain what exactly is the question asking you. Understand the question. It's a play of words. And then fixate upon your answer. What is it? Did you understand the question? You guys didn't understand the question. Anamra, you are right, my child. The correct answer is a C. Let us get back to the passage. How many of you did not understand this passage? I could barely see 3-4 people constantly answering. Anamra, Purva, Prads, Disha, and I had Sagar. Yes, exactly, Anamra. That's weakening. Anamra, are you one of my class students? Okay. Now, how many of you did not understand the passage? Let me know that, and then I can explain the passage accordingly. If something of this sort comes in the examination, how do we get that? What did I teach you? In the last class, we spoke a lot about while we are reading a passage, how are we supposed to read that? A few things while we are reading a passage, if we are investing time in reading that, I need to pay attention to the main idea. I had taught you that in the last class, right? Apart from paying attention to the main idea, I expect you to be very careful about authors' opinions, because these opinions will be the bedrock of the author's argument. Okay, they're going to help understand what exactly is the author trying to say here. Okay, so out of all of the people who were answering these questions, what do you think is the main idea of the passage? Rather, why do you think is the passage written? What did you get from the passage? Could you point out a line that will frame the bedrock of the argument the author gives us? So many from banking attending here. Okay. Banking में इतना difficult नहीं आएगा. But then you're still able to do it. What is the main idea here? Anyone? No? Okay. Let me explain this to you since no one's answering. This is merely the first passage of the class. I brought 2. Okay, let's understand this. The author claims that doctrine and conduct, they diverge. Doctrine, the theory. Conduct, the behavior. They are two opposite things. Okay? They don't go parallel. They're not overlapping. Okay? The theory is the criticism of life? Yes, it is. And since they are not overlapping, they're diverging, if you study or if you evaluate the theory of any time, he says it's going to be paradoxical. The complete idea is explained here, okay? Read this line, which is really important, which will answer many questions that follow. It would be paradoxical to dismiss these theories as irrelevant. When the author uses such a word, remember this word has to give birth to many questions. You can get paradox questions. You can get resolving the paradox questions. You can get strengthening and weakening questions. All the critical reasoning questions can stem out of this word. So I have to understand what exactly is the paradox here. The paradox here is that if you consider these theories as irrelevant because today they're not relevant, it's actually a paradox because you have to consider the time in which these theories were given. And probably in that era, that time, the theories would have been relevant. Today, they aren't. Do you buy my point, everyone? Exactly, Prads. It does. Absolutely. The philosophical and practical application. So, unless and until I associate a theory and its conduct with the time it is associated with, it's going to be paradoxical to discard that theory. The same thing is justified here as well. Okay, so that's going to be add on to the meaning of the passage. Now, if we come back to the first question, he says these theories are valuable only with the index to the thought of the time period the theory was given in. It's going to be valid, because if you go beyond the time, it probably becomes invalid. Okay, and that's why the correct answer is an A here. Now everyone's getting it. So what did we do, guys? Just remember, this line is the author's opinion. The author makes a very strong claim here. Whichever line makes a claim, somewhere here as well. If the author makes a claim, stick to the claim. That is exactly why the whole passage has been written. Okay. Question number 2. It may be inferred that doctrine of any given period cannot be evaluated. So if I look at a doctrine, probably the Middle Age, it cannot be evaluated unless and until the behavior of the same period is compared to the doctrine. The first line said they diverge, but they need to be compared on the same timeline. So it cannot be evaluated unless and until the conduct of the same timeline is taken. If you take the conduct of today's time, it's going to be a paradox. Answer here is a D. Question number 3rd, everyone. Good morning, Deepesh. Question number 3. Appetites of the economic man. We read the last line. It's a completely factual question, and that's exactly why I took you back to the passage. So another lesson to learn here. If you've read the passage completely, if you've invested time in reading that, you should be able to answer question number 1 and 2 here. But for 3, if need be, you can refer back to the passage and reconfirm the answer. That should never be a problem. It would barely take seconds and save you a few marks here. So, and that's exactly why I took you back to the passage. So, factual 1, the appetites of the economic man were seen in the Middle Ages and the 16th century. One line clearly said that. Question number 4. If you did not understand the question, you would get the answer incorrect. The question says, which weakens the author's claim. The author's claim is the first line, and that is doctrine and conduct diverge. I have to speak the opposite of it. Which is going to be our answer? C. Do you get C now, everyone? Do you buy my point? How this option contradicts the author's argument? Doctrine were always a restatement of conduct? No, they weren't. They were diverging. Okay, so that is all from this passage. Did you understand how to handle this passage? Now I'm going to be giving you a second passage today, which is going to be an easier one than the previous one. The vocabulary isn't as tricky. The questions probably are a little. Okay, so I expect you to first like the session if you haven't done that yet, and share the session if you haven't done that yet as well. Also subscribe and comment under my video if you're watching it recorded later on. So before I show you the second passage, if you're preparing for CAT 22 comprehensive program, this is the program that we've launched, and you can enroll yourself right away for this examinations preparation, because the examination isn't far off. So the information, the details about the program, it's right under my video in the description box. You could follow that and enroll yourself right away. Second passage, here it is. Be very careful. Read this. It has 2.5 pages. Okay, first page, page number 1. Read this and send me done. All the best. I love this passage. Changing the slide. Slide number 2. Changing the slide. Number 3. Question number 1. What's your answer? Main purpose, main theme, central idea. What's your answer? If you get this one, you'll get probably every other question correct. Maitreyi, what's your answer? Prads, Diya, Anamra. What's your answer? Okay. Others? Okay. Okay, I'll take you back to the passage. I'll not tell you what the answer is. Okay, keep your answer fixated with you. I only have 2 people answering me. I have 3. Okay. Looks like this passage was more trickier than the previous one for you. How should we read a passage? What did I tell you? Did you pay attention to the first and the last few lines of the passage while you were reading that? Did you do that? Answer this first. Prads, Disha, Anamra, Maitreyi. Did you reread the first line again? What does the first line say? While you're trying to identify the main idea of a passage, it is highly recommended, or rather, while you're reading a passage only, it is highly recommended you pay attention to the first and the last line, first and the last paragraph. There might be introduction and closing conclusions of the passage. Let's reread the first line. In its current application to art, the term primitive. I'll explain this in Hindi and English both. Primitive is a term when applied to art, it becomes a vague and unspecific term. Primitive term अगर आप art के sense में use करते हो, तो ये बहुत ही vague, unclear, undefined term हो जाता है. उसी तरीके से जिस तरीके से heathen अगर religion में use करते हैं हम word, तो जितना unspecific heathen religion के लिए है, उसी तरीके से word primitive art के लिए एक unspecific और एक vague term है. That is, heathen is a pretty unspecific term for religion. Similarly, so is primitive while used for art, it's an unspecific term. Agreed? Frats, how did you change your answer now? Why did you miss out on this line? Main purpose. Explain various definitions of the term primitive? No, because later on, they went on to discussing the European scientist and the theory of evolution and relating it to cultures and what anthropologists did. So it's certain, yeah, that's a C. It certainly is not going to be A. That's not why the passage was written. Show that primitive arts vary greatly among themselves. It does, but that's not why the passage was written. The author has a very strong negative opinion about the usage of the word primitive pertaining to art. Which option gives us the negative connotation used by the author? only and only C. He deprecates. He says, no, using primitive towards art and defining any kind of art form as primitive is wrong. You shouldn't be using this word. He deprecates the use of this word. What did I tell you? While you're reading a passage, you have to focus on the author's opinion. He calls it vague and unspecific. It's his personal opinion. Some people might think, okay, vague is a good term. Primitive is a good term. We should be using that. The author disagrees with it. I have to pay attention to the author's opinion. Okay, yes. So, if you are making notes, please write it down while I'm reading a passage. The first few lines, the last few lines, I have to be very attentive. I have to be attentive with the author's opinion. They are going to help me answer the remaining questions. Okay, let's move on with the next question. I'll not explain the rest of the things to you now. Question number 2. What's your answer? There are 5 options here. It's okay, Prats. You have to deal with this haste because in exam it is going to be even hastier. What's your answer here? The author certainly uses a negative opinion about the 19th century scientists. Okay, Prats, I'll tell you, it's a factual question. Don't fret about it if you don't remember it. Getting back to the passage will help you answer this. The author certainly has a negative opinion about the 19th century scientists. These scientists were trying to develop a theory of evolution. But how would they develop it? They were trying to develop a theory of evolution by studying the development of culture. So that's a factual question. A is going to be the answer. Do not fret about it if you don't remember the data. You could go back and find the answer again. The next question, though, you cannot find it by referring back to the passage. What's your answer for question number 3? You should know this answer. What is your answer? No. Anamra, don't make this mistake. Only makes the option too narrow. Most of the times you wouldn't find answers with only as correct ones. The correct answer here is going to be B. The author made a claim in the passage. He said that using the word primitive, what does the word primitive mean? It stands for something simple, undeveloped, or ancient, ancestral. That's what you call primitive, right? But the author says, let's understand this passage, everyone, before I explain that answer to you. So, the idea is that the author makes a claim that primitive, using the word primitive to art, makes it pretty vague and unspecific. What is primitive art? Primitive art is any art form that differs from the common 4 art forms. It differs. It's nothing similar to modern art or Renaissance or any other period of art form. It's different. If something is different, is it okay to call it primitive? Because primitive means undeveloped. If something is different, does it mean it is undeveloped? Probably not. Probably this different is even more developed than the common types of art forms we see. Agreed, everyone? Yes. So, The author says this is wrong while you use the word primitive. And who is to blame here? These 19th century scientists. What they thought, let's understand this one, okay? But let's first discuss this question. He said that primitive arts may be as highly developed as civilized arts. So while you, and the author agrees to it, so while you use the word primitive, for the different art forms, you're using it incorrectly. The arts of a culture often indicate how advanced that culture is. No. This author would disagree with that because he disagrees with the usage of the word primitive. So art doesn't determine how advanced a culture is. Okay? Apurv? Okay. D says a simple culture is likely to have a simple art. The only reference to art in the passage is for stating how a word primitive is wrongly used in terms of art. Primitive is used for those art that are different. Does that mean they are undeveloped? No, the author disagrees. The author says no, these art forms can be highly developed instead of being undeveloped. That's exactly why the author says while using the word primitive to art form is going to be a vague one. That's how he supports his own claim. Okay? Yes, exactly. And probably the art doesn't determine how advanced the culture is. Something else might. Your development, your evolution, all of that. Okay? Question number 4. I will not explain this. I've already discussed this one. Question number 4. Exactly, Prats. What's your answer here? You don't remember this? The correct answer is a D. These scientists, the European scientists who were trying to make a theory of evolution, they said European culture is the ultimate flower of evolution. So your culture will be ranked according to its closeness to European culture. You remember this line? Here. They said European culture is blandly assumed as the final and perfect flower in the evolutionary process. If your culture is closer to European culture, you are rated higher in the evolutionary process. If your culture is different from the European culture, then you are rated in the lower in the evolutionary process. And that was a misconception. This idea has been abandoned by the anthropologists because this obviously is wrong, and this has become a part of popular misinformation. Thus, European civilization is the final product of evolutionary process has led to many misunderstandings. I did not think, we don't know if the author makes this claim or not. This isn't mentioned anywhere in the passage. Okay, guys, I did not know it's going to be so difficult for you to solve this one. Okay, so what we learned today, we learned the fact that we need to be very attentive. Exactly, Prats. It's a verbatim option. We need to be really careful about practicing hard. I had deliberately brought a passage today so that we know exactly what we're supposed to read, how we're supposed to read, what are the techniques we're supposed to follow while we read an extract. If there are questions on that, I shall see you again next Thursday, where I'll be bringing an extract without questions, but we'll be pondering upon those lines where I need to be paying more attention to. Okay, so please like the session if you haven't done that yet. Comment under my video if you're watching it recorded. Share the video with your friends and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet as well. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, and download our app on Google Play. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a very, very good day. Work really hard. I shall see you again next Thursday. God bless you.